Chicago is a land of prosperity, peace, and abundance. Being the third largest city in the United States with approximately over 2.7 million people living in this energetic city. Chicago wasn't always this huge, and on the map, Chicago's name was CHICAGGGOOO to the Potawatomi Indians who lived near the Chicago River, which they called Chickawa. The name Chicago comes from that Indian word. The Potawatomis hunted buffalo, deer, and other wildlife. They raised such crops such as corn, pumpkins, and squash. They also traded with nearby tribes by traveling the many trails that fanned out from the mouth of the Chicago River. The Potawatomi were peaceful and prosperous, but don't get it confused. When it came to time to defend their land, they went to war for what was theirs. In the 1700s, a prosperous fur trader, John Baptist Point DeSable, a pioneer trader and founder, was the first settler. He established a trading post on the north bank of the Chicago River mouth. His business prospered until his retirement and departure from the region in the 1800s. In 1818, Illinois became a state. Chicago was included within its boundaries. By 1833, Chicago's population had grown to more than 150 people, making it large enough to become incorporated as a town. By 1835, U.S. government agent coerced the Potawatomis and neighboring tribes to sell their land for a sum of money and territory west of Mississippi. More than 3,000 Indians left their homelands. By 1837, Chicago grew to about 4,000 people. On March 4th, 1837, Chicago was incorporated as a city. On October 17th, 1852, St. Michael Church was opened with 43 families.
My name is John Steigerwald. I'm administrative assistant here part-time at St. Michael's. Gentleman who donated the land to St. Michael for the church and the parish. His name was Michael DeVersey. And they said, well, gee, named the church after the guy who gave us the donating the land and all that. Let's name it after him. Okay, so they did. 1860s, when the Redemptorist order of priests came in, that they saw the wisdom in having a few German immigrants who understood how the people in this area thought. And so when they came over here, and there was a lot of skepticism on the part of the parishioners around here, but they the resurrectionists are, that's the wrong order, the Redemptorists were able to unify the people. So, and things just improved from there. They improved so much that by 1866 they began building the church that now stands out here. So,
1870, it was the world's largest grain, livestock, and lumber market. The city population had grown to nearly 300,000 people. As the world's lumber capital, Chicago was built almost entirely of wood. Houses, churches, stores, grain elevators, factories, and even streets were nearly all made of wood. The American poet Carl Sandburg called Chicago the city of big shoulders because this city does things in a big way. October 8, 1871. Miscommunication notifying the fire department 20 minutes away instead of the closest one caused Chicago to be hit with a devastating estimate of $200 million in property damage, killing an estimate of 300 people and leaving around 90,000 homeless. The fire started around 9 p.m. in or around a small barn at 137 DeCavon Street, which grew quickly out of control. Residents tried to put out the fire, and firefighters worked tirelessly battling the flames. And by strong winds, the flames raced north and east through the city with fire across the river and moving rapidly toward the heart of the city. With dry conditions, it wiped out the downtown area and most of the north side homes, leaving only the structures downtown: St. Michael's Church, Old Town, Chicago Water Tower, and Chicago Avenue Pumping Station. A lot of the people who became homeless was unable to recover. A lot of their papers were burned up in the fire. The fire burned for more than 24 hours. Late into the evening of the night, it started to rain, but the fire had already started to burn itself out. Although the city was burning down, developers were already planning how they would rebuild. By October 10th, 1871, the fire was out. Chicago received help from New York, which gave $450,000 with clothing and provisions. The task of rebuilding St. Michael Church began within a week. A wooden combination church and school was erected on October 12, 1873. The rebuilt St. Michael's Church was one of the first Chicago churches to rise from the fire ashes. Chicago became the nation's architectural capital. Chicago's industry skyrocketed along with its. By the 1900s, the Great Migration brought African Americans of all classes built a community on the south side of Chicago for decades, as well as on the west side. Residing in segregated communities, almost regardless of income, the black residents of Chicago aimed to create communities where they could survive, sustain themselves, and have the ability to determine for themselves their own course. During the mid-1900s, the African American market on State Street consisted of barbershops, restaurants, pool rooms, salons, and beauty salons. African Americans used these trades to build their own communities. These shops gave the blacks a chance to establish their families, earn money, and become an active part of the. As evolution continues to take place, people who have left Chicago is slowly coming back to help rebuild Chicago. Chicago residents saw a change from transportation, being from horses to feet, to trains and cars, to the future being maybe a shuttle, being shuttle speed rides. Being born into a world of confusion, people are slowly coming together to make a better Chicago for the future. Chicago is a city reborn, created for greatness, a land of abundance and prosperity, filled with fun, energetic people who accept you for you, encourage you to be a better you, and to do better. Chicago is an opportunity to grow and to be what you truly aspire to be. Now, don't get me wrong, yes, we do go 0 to 1,000 real quick, but still, Chicago is the land to invest in. Chivest.